I was travelling through London a few weeks ago, and evidently I was using public transport, and namely a tube, or some Americans might say subway. And how a subway works, which I found was very interesting that day, was that at the start of the subway, you kind of go from stationary to motion to stationary again, right? Because you go from one station, literally one station, and then you accelerate, then you go at steady speed, then you decelerate, then you go to the next station. And it's kind of like over a period of time. And I found that really, really interesting. And I was in the tube, and I was just noticing the fact that every single time you started, you feel a jolt, right? You feel like suddenly it started, right? A burst starting. The tube started moving like slowly and slowly and slowly. And then there's like a huge sound, there's a huge noise in the background. You just see the screeching of tires, literally like this friction of the wheels against the iron plates beneath, right? Then you go faster and faster and faster until after a very short period of time, the tube literally start going at steady speed. You don't feel it anymore. You don't feel the momentum carrying you forward. Not the first jolt that made you like needs to hold on handrails with like the side of the tube. And I'm a weird guy, right? I was just like, that is literally how life works. That is literally how every single habit we build in life works. And just a little bit of bro science here for clarification. If you don't know what momentum is, a very simple, basic explanation would be the equation, literally, momentum equals mass times velocity, right? Mass is how heavy an object is, and velocity is how fast an object goes. So essentially, momentum would be how easy something moves at a certain speed, right? Then if you think about it, momentum, when an object is stationary, right, the mass would always be constant. It would be staying still. Only the velocity would be changing. If the velocity is 0, then the mass is like something, right? Like 52. The tube is 52 kilograms of weight, right? Then the momentum, because it's mass times velocity, would be 0. Then you think about if the velocity like increases like exponentially, right? It becomes like 10, right? It would be 520. And the higher the velocity goes, since the mass stays constant, would mean higher the momentum goes. Meaning the faster the train moves, the easier it goes forward. That's mind-blowing. The faster something goes means it's easier to go forward. That doesn't go well together, right? Surely you would think that the faster a thing goes, the harder it would be for a thing to move forward, because you're using more energy. But that's not how momentum works. Momentum builds up. So it doesn't go linear, right? If you think you plot a graph, for example, like mathematics, right? You plot momentum against velocity. It doesn't go up linearly. It goes up exponentially, right? The velocity would increase slowly and slowly times the constant mass, right? Since the velocity would be smaller, the times would be definitely smaller. The product would, in the end, be smaller, right? But as the velocity goes higher and higher, and it's multiplication rather than addition, the momentum would increase exponentially. And I found that so interesting. I realized that, for example, if we're trying to form like some sort of habit or like daily thing, even like recording this video, I knew it was difficult to start, right? The start part was definitely the most difficult because I recorded this video 3 times already, and it was the momentum that really stopped me, right? I didn't have the momentum. I didn't have the velocity there, like the speed there. The speed wasn't there, that I couldn't move on easily. I got stuck. My words start like getting cramped up in my mouth, right? And it really took a minute of recording, just like speaking from the camera, to suddenly get everything going. And now everything's so easy. Even if I cramp up, even if I stutter, even if I stop myself for a second, I know I can still go on because I'm going, the speed I'm going at is not changing that quickly, right? I already got to like the climax or the main idea of my talk, which is how momentum relates to life. And since that climax, that content of my talk is still there, it means it's easier for me to carry forward, to carry out my analogies, to give my examples. And that shocks me. That shocks me how the starting point of an object, of a habit, of a thing you're trying to achieve is possibly one of the hardest things you can possibly do. And starting is supposed to be the thing that makes something possible, right? If you never start, for example, starting to ride a bike, you can never fully go on the road and cycle by yourself. And it's that starting momentum that really carries you forward. I thought about a very good example as well. I do running myself, and I do long distance running. And I always remember the track that I'd gone on. It was not like a normal flat track, right? It would be in a park, and there would be a sharp incline at the start of my track. Then it kind of levels off for a long time. And I always would think, before I go running, that I need to conquer that first incline first. That first uphill. That uphill is possibly the most mentally challenging one, because my limbs are starting to move, right? If you think about the train example, it's slowly starting to build up momentum. And against that momentum, there's still the incline. And once I get to the top of that hill, I know absolutely sure that I'm going to keep on and finish my, for example, 10K or whatever I'm doing, right? Because it gets so much easier, both the mentally and the physically, for me to keep on going. And you might be sat here and be like, what the hell is this guy talking about, right? He talked 7 minutes about physics to me, about real life examples, how can I leverage momentum in my daily life? I would say one thing is, whether anything you're trying to do, I assume you're trying to form a good habit, right? Or you're trying to make yourself to do something. That's why you need a momentum, you need a motivation, you need a cause for your action. And that's when I stress the importance of having someone next to you, someone such as a guide, someone motivational, someone who's willing to go through the process with you. Because when I first started running, I had a friend who literally came running every single time with me. Every single 5K, we would be encouraging each other. We would be getting through the thing together. And it's just that process of having someone who could kickstart your momentum, such as the friction on the brakes before the start of the train. Someone who can act as that force that pulls you forward. That is quite essential, at least in my perspective, of how you form a habit, how you bring the idea of leveraging your momentum into daily life. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Love you so much. Bye bye.